An icon of the Cold War, the M48 Patton is used in Fate of a Nation, NAM, and now Clash of Steel. Previously only available in resin and metal, now it's a plastic kit. I've just gotten hold of this kit as part of my American vs German complete starter set for Clash of Steel, and I'm keen to look at the plastic. I anticipate there's going to be options to build a lot of different variants. Stay with me to see what's on this sprue. This is CSU09, the American M48 Patton Platoon box for Clash of Steel. It contains parts to build 3 M48 tanks. The plastic M48 is a new kit for Battlefront, and as well as Clash of Steel, it's going to be useful for NAM, Fate of a Nation, and Team Yankee. Previously, this tank was only available in resin and metal, so a plastic kit will be welcome. Because it was operated by so many countries and saw service in so many theatres, there are bound to be a ton of options on this kit. First, a very quick history. M48 is one of the later designs in a series of medium tanks fielded by the US during the 1940s through to the 1980s, including seeing active service in Vietnam. The series started with the M26 Pershing, a late-war design with heavy armour and a 90mm gun. Too late for World War II, the Pershing saw action in Korea. Korea was also the debut for the M46 Patton, essentially an upgraded Pershing with an 810 horsepower Continental engine and other minor improvements. The tank panic of the Korean War spawned the M47 Patton, an interim design created by mating the new turret from the T-42 medium tank then under development with the existing M46 hull and drivetrain. M47 was always going to be a stopgap, but over 8,000 were produced, with many being sold or provided as military assistance to US allies. Its replacement was the M48 Patton, a significantly reworked and developed version of the same basic design. Armament was still the 90mm gun, but the turret was enlarged, the hull redesigned, along with a more efficient power plant. M48 dispensed with the bow gunner, allowing for a lower, more shot-deflecting wedge-shaped hull with the driver mounted centrally. Crew was 4 men, a driver, loader, gunner and commander. The gunner had a stereoscopic rangefinder, and a xenon searchlight provided both white light and infrared illumination. The commander had a small enclosed turret armed with a 50 caliber machine gun. M48 was used extensively in Vietnam by the US Army and the Marine Corps. During its service life, M48 was up-armed with a 105mm gun and saw service with many nations. Even after being replaced in US service by the M60, M48 served with National Guard units until the 1980s. Let's look at the plastic. The parts are moulded in dark green and come on this sprue organised into 2 frames. The base vehicle's on the large frame, with parts for options and variants on the small one. Detail is good, sharp and well defined, with no visible flash. The upper hull piece has the distinctive rounded cast front. The driver is positioned centrally, with a pivoting hatch and 3 vision blocks. The rear shows the later Patton engine deck first introduced with the M48A2. This replaced a complex louver system, similar to that found on the M26 Pershing, so this kit can't build an M48 or M48A1. There's also a gun travel lock mounted on the back deck. The lower hull really shows the M48's rounded cast shape, which includes openings for the suspension arm torsion bars. M48's hull was made as a single huge casting. There's keying to help position the tracks, but it's the same on both sides, but I don't think you can fit the tracks on the wrong way. Speaking of tracks, here they are. There are 6 road wheels per side. There's some very nice bolt detail. The 5 return rollers tell us this is an early M48 hull that's been remanufactured to a later standard. The M48A2 and later new build hulls had only 3 return rollers. Some of the leading and trailing road wheels have shock absorbers. M48's turret is a rounded casting as well. There's a large square mounting for the gun mantlet. Other details are a simplified grab rail and jerry can mounts, as well as a stowage rack offset to the right rear. Plus there's a gunner's sight, lift ring and antenna mounts. The upper portion of the turret is a separate piece with a quite complex shape. This piece has a spring-assisted loader's hatch, space for a commander's hatch or cupola, and a round turret ventilation cover. The rounded bumps on either side are the lenses for the stereoscopic rangefinder. M48's wide turret gave good separation, resulting in accurate range estimates. Hopefully this complex piece will fit into the recess in the turret for a gap-free fit. By contrast, the lower turret piece is a fairly simple oval piece with a socket to take either a turret peg or magnet. This shouldn't cause any issues. The rear hull has a towing hook, tail lights, access hatches and engine compartment louvers. There's some interlocking keying here to mate all the hull parts together. 4 different guns are included in the kit. Here's 3 of them. They're helpfully marked A, B and C. A is a 105mm gun without thermal sleeve. This lets you build an M48A5 or Magach 3 variant amongst others. There's also C, a 105mm gun with a thermal sleeve for later variants. Gun B is the 90mm gun of the early M48s. This would suit US M48A3 tanks in Vietnam, early Israeli examples, and initial A2CGA1 West German M48s. The gun has a very distinctive T-shaped muzzle blast deflector that vented propellant gases left and right. A bore evacuator is situated just after the deflector. These guns all fit into this flat mantlet. You can see the D-shaped keying on the mantlet that ensures the gun is positioned correctly. Next to the main gun, there's ports for the 30 caliber coaxial machine gun and the gunner's sight. This grille is the rails for the turret rear stowage basket. M48 commanders had an M1 coupler to be able to fire and reload a 50 caliber machine gun under armour. Access was via a semicircular clamshell hatch at the rear. This coupler replaced an earlier lower hatch with a remote control machine gun mount. However, while this coupler was an improvement, vision was limited. There are only 3 vision blocks, creating plenty of blind spots. That's where this comes in, the G305 coupler riser. This raised the coupler 5 inches and included 9 non-removable vision blocks that gave the commander 360-degree visibility. It's a common modification for later tanks in US service, but not every tank received it. It's up to you whether you use it or not. The other parts here are a jerry can for stowage and the lens for the xenon searchlight. This is a combination light and infrared searchlight that's fitted above the main gun. That's a lot of the common M48 parts. Time to look at some of the specific variants. And there's plenty of options here. If you're building an Israeli Magach 3, you can use this low-profile coupler as an alternative. It can replace the original M1 50 caliber turret at the commander's station. There's a commander's 30 caliber Browning that mounts on this, plus a 50 caliber gun for the mantlet over the main gun. Later M48A5s also received the low-profile coupler as an optional upgrade, along with a mounting for an M60D machine gun. Some later M48s in South Korea additionally received NATO-style smoke grenade dischargers and grenade stowage boxes, and these parts are included in this kit too. It's a nice touch of a very niche upgrade to include. This image shows the 50 caliber gun on the low-profile commander's hatch in place of the M60D. This whole section has parts for the West German M48A2 GA2, hinting at some Checkpoint Charlie for Team Yankee in the future. This has an L7 105mm gun with a thermal sleeve, which mounts into the angular mantlet used on German M48s. The commander's cupola is a leopard-style affair with the raise and swivel type low opening hatch. There's an MG3 machine gun to mount to this. The stowage box rails are also similar to that on the Leopard, and there are 2 banks of German-style smoke grenade launchers, each with 4 tubes. There's no guides to mount the discharges except matching up the curve of the turret, so maybe use some references to help with placement. You could also use these parts to make the earlier M48A2C GA1. Just use the 90mm gun and the M1 commander's cupola without the riser. So that's the parts for Battlefront's M48 kit in plastic. This looks like a nice kit, and there are plenty of options that will mix and match to make loads of different variants. The 5 road wheels mark this as a remanufactured early production hull, but that's okay. The later Patton engine deck means no M48 or M48A1s. But there are lots of versions you can build, potentially making this kit work for NAM, Fate of a Nation, NATO allies in Team Yankee, US for Checkpoint Charlie, and even National Guard units in Red Dawn. That's pretty impressive. Given it's usable in loads of games, I'm just going to briefly show the Clash of Steel card. Platoons are 3 to 5 tanks, coming in at about 6.5 points each. Front armour is 13, with side and rear of 8. Tactical movement is a standard 10 inches or 25 centimetres, but the wide tracks give a good 2+ cross. The 90mm gun has a 40-inch or 100 centimetre range, with an anti-tank of 16. That should be enough to take on historical contemporaries like the T-54. Firepower is 3+. Overall, the plastic M48 is a welcome addition to Battlefront's range, and the fact the kit comes with so many options to build US, West German, Israeli and others, as well as gun upgrades, makes this very versatile. The West German option hints at Battlefront getting ready for the 1960s Checkpoint Charlie Team Yankee setting, and the South Korean M48A5 options are an interesting inclusion. Are you planning to build some M48s? What variants do you plan to build? Are you going to Vietnam, the Middle East, Europe, or somewhere else? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you next time.